Okay, so we're talking about pelvic floor and stress incontinence. And that's that, the double under where we're leaking, okay? Or for like the post-childbirth woman where they're bending and lifting, they're leaking, they're coughing, they're sneezing, they're leaking a little bit. And it's this pelvic floor dysfunction. And the common answer for treatment is Kegels. Kegels.
I'm doing them right now.
Me too. And that's pulling it up. That's pulling the anus up. That's pulling the pelvic floor up. I said it.
I do it in class so I don't pass gas.
But here's my analogy on that. The pelvic floor, it holds up our innards, okay? So if this is my innards and I want to do a Kegel, I'm literally just smashing up into it. And I'm making that concentric contraction to catch it. That's not practical. That's not the way the pelvic floor actually works. It needs to be able to smoothly catch the innards, smoothly catch the intra-abdominal pressure that's being generated. So to do that, we need to have that eccentric contraction, the ability to lengthen under tension the pelvic floor. And that's not done with a Kegel. That's done with being able to regulate and control intra-abdominal pressure. Okay? Baby learns how to do this starting about 3 months of age, and it develops and it evolves as they start to verticalize their posture and assume like a standing role. Okay, so we're going to go through those steps with Nathan, and we're going to talk about how to generate and control intra-abdominal pressure and to feel it down into the lower part of the belly and pelvic floor. So we'll start by mimicking the baby at 3 months of age, 6 months of age, on his back here. Okay, legs are up at this 90-90 position. And we want the feet tipped in a little bit. Hands are going to kind of rest on the shins. Head is down, okay? If you check out the blog, you can see more about the pelvic floor and the various diaphragms, okay? So pelvic floor is but one diaphragm. Then we have our main diaphragm. Also the glottis of the throat serves as another. So we want to really align all of those here by making sure the ribs are down. With the hands right here, the shoulders are nice and down. He's not kind of wrenched in like this. He's nice and down. Good. Chest is flat. And when he breathes here, I want the cue to be like he's breathing into his sit bones. Okay? In and out here. A lot of times people feel this better if they give it a little more hip flexion. So grabbing the toes here. Good. And then feel the breath literally into the thigh right here. Bonus points if you can think about pressing your sacrum here down into the mat and really making that hip flexion happen. Okay? We're going to flip it as we start to work towards verticalization. He'll go onto his elbows and knees. As you may have noticed, this is the exact same position, basically, just flipped upside down. Okay? So it has a lot of the same rules. Spine's nice and long. I would not want his neck wrenched back like this. We would have lost the glottis as part of the diaphragms. We want to flatten through here to where it's all nice and flat. And then the inhalation-exhalation process is an inhale, exhale. And we get this pistoning action of the abdominal cavity. If he can grab the floor right here, create some pressure by pulling the floor backwards, this contraction of the serratus and contraction of the obliques here, and he will feel that breath into my fingers right here. And that breath is also distending into his pelvic floor right here. Every time he creates pressure, the pelvic floor has to catch that. So the more pressure we can make, the more tension you can put on the pelvic floor, the more you can train it. And here he's going to go into our bear position. So we're still going to work that cylinder this way, okay? But he's going to bring the butt up like this, and now the cylinder's coming this way. He's got to really feel the contraction, the pressurization into that inguinal region right here. Feel the breath into the sit bone here. Excellent. Good.
Feeling Zach's arm into my sit bone right now.
At least it's my elbow and not my hand. Now, to start to really verticalize it, we'll go into our side sit position. So just pivot. And here he's got his spine in a more vertical plane, okay? And he's going to start to bear weight here. Pelvic floor's tidbit though. Your piriformis muscle is basically part of the pelvic floor. Okay, it has its proximal attachment kind of joins up at the same region as the pelvic floor. So here he's going to really load that muscle as he pivots the pelvis towards the down knee. Okay, and right here he gets what I call this closure over the hip, where this would be opening of the hip. He gets this closure over the hip, nice eccentric tensioning of the pelvic of the piriformis, and then again here he's going to focus on the breath. driving that breath downward into the groin. Downward into the groin as he inhales. Intra-abdominal pressure, training his pelvic floor to be able to accept that, okay? Now I'm going to put him into a lunge stance, and this lunge stance is going to mimic the baby at 11 months of age, okay? So as he's here, you've been around a little one, you'll notice that they get up with support here, okay? Ideally, we see that the knee is a little outside of the hip. The foot is turned inward, so the hip's in what we call this nice centrated position. This hip is much the same, how the knee is outside like this. He's going to pivot his weight up and forwards as he starts to come off the knee. Right here, he's going to hold this position, and this is really baby's first taste of full weight bearing, where the pelvic floor is holding the abdominal contents upwards as he's under load in the hip. So he'll pivot over and come up, and just give it a few breaths down low into the sit bones. And here he's having to carry it through here, and he'll come back down. Now the less he's on this leg, the better in my opinion. So I'm going to flip that foot inwards, let him use this, okay? Pivot over, good, and up, right there, good. Obviously he's getting a lot of butt contraction here too. He's having to control gravity, okay? Good, so what's baby going to do after this? They're going to squat, So let's train squat position too. And he's going to sink down into the bottom of a goblet squat, okay? Here, he's just going to sit deep and low. You can let your back round a little bit, you're fine. And just feel that you're doing like this nice low squat here. And again, breathe here. Now, because he's got his elbows on his knees, okay, he's not as bearing weight. Whenever he comes up an inch, come up an inch. Now he's really in business. Breathe here. And now the pelvic floor is having to control all that intra-abdominal pressure as he breathes. And he'll come back down and kind of explore the bottom of a squat. We'll see babies and toddlers hang out here. Good. Kettlebell really helps to balance him in this position to maintain a more vertical spine instead of having to lean forward. Good. So give those a try. Play with that progression, okay? Learn to use the pelvic floor the same as you did when you were an infant, okay? Work from your back, okay? And then work your way up in verticalization to be able to control that intra-abdominal pressure, to be able to control your urine when you're doing various tasks, all right? Thank you.